Hello everyone, I'm Two-Faced Teller, but you can call me V, and this is Meeting in the Flesh. Meeting in the Flesh is a free horror romance visual novel. You play as Vil, the resident of a strange but friendly little city, encountering various people and getting the chance to court one of 3 different monstrous suitors. Though the game will include some body horror imagery, the game is a romance at its core, with a focus on getting to know and growing closer to your partner. It features romantic scenes that can be toggled between a PG-13 and an R rating. The world of Meeting in the Flesh is full of interesting faces, but Vil is pretty close to 3 in particular. Meet the Suitors! Yiestol is the community overlook, kind and gentle, and takes pride in his work. He cares deeply about others. Bratton is a salt scout, very friendly and outgoing. He loves adventure and excitement and wants to discover something big. Nyargh is the owner of a bee shop. Though gruff and stoic, he's in no way mean. However, he's surrounded by some odd rumors. We're all adults here. Right? That's what I thought. Before we start, this game features text descriptions and non-explicit visual descriptions of blood and gore, torture, vor, and cannibalism, sex, hand-holding. By continuing, you agree to do so at your own risk. Oh, look at that. We're at the beginning again, and definitely not because something happened to the display capture. It wasn't showing. Haha. So I'm reading it again. After years of waking up at the same time every day, I've grown far too accustomed to it. I'm awake even before my alarm beetle goes off. The air outside must still be cold from the rain last night. The room feels a little chilly, and there's a strong compulsion to stay curled up in my blanket. My bed is enticingly warm after all, so I decide to remain still until it's absolutely necessary for me to rise. Keeping my eyes closed, I consider what to wear today. The weather today is supposed to be cloudy. Wearing an extra cloak might not be a bad idea, just one of the lighter ones. The alarm beetle starts chirping, and I lay a hand on it even before its first trill is over, gently silencing it. I crack my eyes open to squint at the light gently filtering into my room. Get up, or one more minute. I might as well. I've been up for how long now? I better get up. Alright, let's get going. I crawl out of bed and begin my usual morning routine. It's become such a deeply ingrained habit that I hardly need to think about what I'm doing. I splash my face with water first and wipe off any pus that's accumulated overnight. Huh, gross. Toweling my face off, I return to open the windows and air out the place. The atmosphere outside is crisp from last night's rain, the ground's still a little moist, and there's a pleasant miasma that stings at the nose, poking my head out the window. Sorry. Completely read that sentence wrong. A pleasant miasma that stings at the nose. Poking my head out the window, I take a few deep breaths to chase off the last tendrils of sleep before withdrawing back inside and making my bed. I find my way to my table to retrieve my usual breakfast, a block of salt and a cup of water. Interesting breakfast. Some people go without eating in the morning or only drink water, but I found it hard to last the morning without some salt. The crystals crunch between my teeth as I look for a cloak of appropriate thickness. The cloak I'm looking for turns out to be abandoned in a corner, and I swallow my mouth full of salt as I pull it out. The salt burns down the full length of my throat, and I wash it down with water. That done, I smooth my hands down the front of my cloak to brush off any stray salt crystals, and to make sure there aren't any unsightly wrinkles. I want to look presentable. Even if I'm just a delivery agent, I still want to look good for my clients. My entire routine doesn't take more than 15 minutes. I've streamlined it well over the years. I glance outside as I close my window. The streets outside are still mostly quiet, with only a few people bustling about. The owner of the corner store is quietly sweeping the streets, rhythmic scratch of brush bristles against the damp dirt echoing down the block. A few crows linger on a nearby roof, muttering to themselves. They seem a bit more excited than usual. My room falls quiet when I close the window. As I leave, I lock the door and jostle it 1, 2, 3 times to make sure it's secure. Then I head down the street. The crows bellow at me when I walk past them, and I glance up to give them a smile. They remember people's faces, so it's best to stay on their good side if possible. Past them, the sky is a deeper green than it usually is. I squint and shield my eyes as I look up at the suns. That's right. I'd forgotten. The eclipse is in 2 days. How many suns, though? Like 5? 2? 10? The primary sun looms largest overhead, but its smaller brothers don't lag far behind, the 3 forming a lopsided triangle. The moon lingers lower, closer to the horizon, like a pale paper cutout laid against the sky. It's normal for them to be scattered like this, but in 2 days, for just a few moments, they'll all align. The 3 suns all overlapping at one point in the sky block from our view by one of our 2 moons. An absolute solar eclipse. Excited about the eclipse coming up. I give a slight jump when a voice chirrups from right behind me. I whirl around so quickly I almost end up entangled in my own cloak. Whoa! Didn't mean to scare you there. Sorry about that. No, it's alright. I was just thinking about things. One of my neighbors, Agri, from just down the block. She looks more jittery than usual, a string of saliva dribbling down from her mandibles as she also casts her gaze up towards the sky. Oh, it's so exciting, isn't it? Just 2 more days and it will be the eclipse. Are you thinking of doing anything special on that day, sweetie? I smile and shake my head. Nothing in particular. I'm just looking forward to seeing it. Oh, that's also fine, but you should really think hard just in case there is something special you want to do on that day. Well, an absolute solar eclipse only occurs once every century or so, a rare event. I squint up at the sky. Perhaps because of that, people view it as an auspicious phenomenon. It's said that if you make an important life decision or attempt something new on the day of an absolute solar eclipse, the results are more likely to be favorable. I've never believed in such superstitions, but I know most of the city is looking forward to the eclipse. A lot of people propose to loved ones, explore new areas, or change their jobs on eclipse day. As a result, I've heard it's considered something of a headache for the community organizers who need to deal with the chaos. Still, the excitement building in the air is almost palpable. Regardless of my own beliefs, I don't see any reason to squelch anyone's excitement. Ew. Squelch. I look back to my neighbor. I love you, neighbor. Do you have any plans for Eclipse Day, Agri? Oh, I do. She gives an excited chirp, clasping her hands together. I'm going to visit my dear friend across town. We had a rather bad fight years ago and haven't spoken since. But we agreed to meet on Eclipse Day to talk things out, and I'm sure we'll be able to rekindle our friendship. Her genuine excitement is heartwarming. I can't help smiling as I give a nod. That sounds wonderful. I hope it goes well. Thank you, dear. Oh, but I shouldn't keep you for too long. You're on your way to work, aren't you? I nod again. It's alright. I always head out early, and it was nice hearing about your plans. Well, good luck on your work, and do think about something to do for Eclipse Day. It would be such a shame to let the opportunity pass you by. I give her a small wave as I turn to leave, and she cheerily returns a gesture. But once I turn the corner, I speed up into a light gallop. Despite what I told her, I hurry a little. I like getting places a little earlier than necessary. Good morning, boss. The air in the salt processing plant stings at the nose, burning at the lungs a little with each breath. I try not to inhale too deeply. Full-time workers here usually wear masks unless they happen to have well-developed nasal filters. Since I'm usually in and out of here quickly, I don't bother with masks. Where's your mask? My boss is pretty strict, though. It's alright, boss. I'll be out of here pretty quick. No. Wear your mask. You'll need to wait a few moments. He thrusts the mask into my hands before I can stop him, then turns away to a nearby table piled high with packages. I give a slightly exasperated sigh. How many times have we had this exact same exchange before? Although it's a good indicator of how much the boss cares for his workers, I guess. Put on mask or pocket mask? I'll just put it on. Better safe than sorry. Might as well put on the mask. It's a little uncomfortable, especially where the filter brushes against the raw sections of my face, but it does immediately make breathing easier. Oh, that explains the pus. Okay, gross. As I adjust the mask strings, I take a cursory glance around the factory. It's a familiar sight, but its internal workings are always fascinating to watch. A chute at the far end of the room belches out spurts of salt crystals, spilling them into a huge vat. The steady hum of grinding and crunching sometimes seeps through the chute, like sounds of many small bones being chewed up. On the other side of that chute is the machine that processes the raw salt, breaking up any larger rocks into these smaller crystals. The ground-up salt needs to be processed further, though. The grinding process doesn't get rid of any insects, rocks, or hair clumps that might be present in the raw salt rocks. Workers carry huge buckets of this unprocessed salt to the smaller vats that dot the cavernous room. These vats are constantly stirred with long poles, pressing the salt crystals through the filters that will catch any unwanted materials. The filters quickly clog up with hair and insect wings and need to be swapped out frequently. Why is there hair? Why? One vat has a worker carefully adding an enormous bucket of flavoring to it. The scent of honey comes wafting through the air and I inhale deeply. The sweet slick of honey contrasts beautifully to the familiar crisp sting of salt. Honey salt must be delicious. Maybe I'll get to splurge on it someday. But in order to do that, I need to work. Getting tongue-tied. What's my quota like today? My voice comes out a little muffled past the mask.
Little more than usual.
I step to the table to help the boss load packages into a cloth bundle. Each package is a block of salt wrapped tightly in a piece of fabric. The fabric protects the salt from any moisture while it's in transit and also catches any pieces that might crumble off. Most of the bundles are wrapped in cheap tan fabric. Those are packages of normal salt. But there are a few packages wrapped in red or yellow cloth and even fewer are wrapped in white cloth. The white ones are mercury, right? The boss grunts in an affirmative. Mercury salt is such a rare treat that I don't deliver it often. That looks like more honey and punishment salt than usual, too.
People get excited about the eclipse treating themselves.
Right, of course. The boss counts the packages one last time before tying the bundle shut and handing it over to me. There's the rustle of fabric and the crackle of loose salt crystals bumping into each other with each movement, the package weighing heavily in my hands. I tie the fabric tight over one shoulder so the bundle won't come loose or jostle around too much while I'm running.
And here's the route.
He hands me a scrap of paper with just a few notes jotted on it. I've long since memorized my route, and the paper only notes any exceptions. Who doesn't need salt today? Who's getting special salt instead of the usual? Who's getting more packages than normal? Usually I don't even need this cheat sheet, but there are a lot of exceptions today. It really does seem like everyone's changing things up in preparation for the eclipse. All the more reason to avoid making mistakes. I'd hate to deliver people the wrong salt and put a damper on the mood. Got it. Pocketing the note, I give the bundle one last tug with my hand to make sure it's in place before turning toward the door. Right before I push the door open, I remember to take my mask and hand it back to the boss. He gives a snort as he takes it back, waving a hand to shoo me out and on my way. As the heavy door lumbers shut, I hear him call out gruffly,
"Take care."
Just a tiny sliver of the plant's interior is visible past the closing door, and I give him a wave of the hand before turning back towards the street. Alright, time to begin my route. I've been delivering salt for several years now, though I was uncertain when an acquaintance first suggested the job to me. I've really warmed up to it since then. The workload is consistent and predictable, my boss is nice, if a little gruff, and the neighbors I deliver to are full of friendly people.
Hey! Starting on your route for today.
Yep, have a good morning.
You too.
My hind claws dig a little into the ground, kicking up little clumps of dirt with each step. I quickly fall into a comfortable galloping gait as I take a hard left outside the salt processing plant, and start heading down the street. Huge slabs of buildings loom overhead on both sides. This block doesn't have any residents as it's mostly factories. I pass by those quickly, no deliveries to make just yet. But I do have one delivery to make at the corner up ahead. The building at the very end of the block is smaller, its outer walls off-white instead of a murky beige. It's not very tall either, but it does have an awesome structure sprouting from its top. A giant tower clawing up towards the sky, made of bone and coated with smooth flesh. An enormous pair of antennae protrude from the tip of the tower, their chitinous shells gleaming faintly in the sunlight. They whip back and forth at random intervals as if raking through the air. The numerous eyeballs at the antennae's base also blink frequently, their irises swiveling around to survey their surroundings. One of them whirls around to look me over when I approach, and I give it a small wave. The front entrance to the building has a small sign carved into it. The sign reads, "Community Overlook Center." I open the door and enter. Eyeball. The office's interior is much cozier, the air clean and warm. There are a few desks littered with papers, workers busily reading over their contents and filling out other forms. This place always looks busy when I come by, never hectic though. Despite the steady bustle of productivity, things always seem in control. Not that I know these workers very well, I do wave to a vaguely familiar face, but head straight to the far corner where the tower control pod sits. The pod's nerves crawl up the walls like a giant spiderweb, thick cables of flesh burrowing into the smooth rock surface. The pod itself is a giant oblong shape coated in flesh and pulsing gently. The eyeballs embedded in its surface flicker about more languidly, a few of them fixing on me as I approach. Though they close wetly after a few moments of staring, they probably don't want to get squished when the pod opens. There's a loud squelch. A fluid, slick flesh. When the pod splits open at the center, its two halves neatly sliding apart like a beetle's carapace. A wall of hot, damp air bursts outward as the pod opens. The interior of the pod is oozing with fluid. Drips of it spilling out to dot the floor. A thick coating of it obscures the shape of the person sitting inside until he sits up and stretches his arms. Fluid comes sloughing off in sheets, spilling back into the pod's interior as he rises to his feet. I'm remembering too much of Sayana Uta or whatever the fuck it's called. All the meat. There's two wet plops of suction as he detaches the pod's nerves cables attached to his temples. Hi, Yiestol. Yiestol stands over me when he straightens up to his full height, the bones of his feet clicking gracefully on the floor when he steps out of the pod. Good morning, Vil. He always talks gently, his voice slow. It's a little hard making out what he's saying if the office is ever really busy, but it does make him sound very reassuring, especially when he smiles a little. Smiling all the time. Diligent as ever, I see. Yiestol leads the way to a table nearby. It's far enough from the pod that there isn't any danger of fluid splashback, which is good. Salt doesn't hold up well to anything wet, and I have a lot of salt to drop off here. My bundle's heavy from the day's worth of salt, and I'm looking forward to lightening it significantly. I start undoing the fabric knot to put the bundle down on the table. How are things looking today? He gives a small sigh at that, just a warm puff of air that escapes past chitinous lips. I haven't spotted any real troublemakers, but there's certainly a buzz in the air. There does seem to be a little crowd congregating just north of here, so I might have to send someone to check it out later. Hopefully, it's just a friendly gathering, so I can leave it be. I'd hate to have to get anyone in trouble just before the eclipse. Suggest action, nod sympathetically, agree with leniency. Nod sympathetically. I don't fully understand Yiestol's job, so all I can do is offer sympathy. It does sound like the situation could go either way. Hopefully it won't cause too much trouble for you no matter the outcome. Thanks, Vil. It should be alright. I'll just keep a few eyes on them for a while. Yiestol's job seems busy at the best of times, and I can imagine it only grows more difficult during times of excitement, like around the eclipse. There aren't very many people who can handle the pressure of being the town's overlook, especially since the overlook pod is apparently a strain to operate. But Yiestol's been loved by everyone since he took the job. Highly attentive and quick to respond, he's been key in maintaining the town's peace. Because he's able to spot troublemakers so quickly and send officials to stop them before too much trouble is done, it's done a done a lot to discourage crime. That, on top of being an all-round nice guy. The fabric finally comes undone and I settle it on the table before digging through my pocket for the note. Alright, it says here that you need 24 packets of salt today, correct? Correct. 24 then. Yiestol doesn't eat the 24 packets of salt for himself, of course. As a community overlook, he's also in charge of keeping an eye out for people who are ill or injured or have fallen on hard times. Anyone who might have difficulty procuring their own salt. These 24 packets will be distributed to these two such people. That's a little more than usual, right? Is the eclipse causing any trouble? I lay out the salt packets in stacks of 4. In a sense. Yiestol gives a slightly sheepish laugh. It's not trouble, but I wanted to ensure that people aren't struggling for salt during a time as joyous as the eclipse. I'll be giving out a little extra to people who are having a hard time. My heart warms with admiration. It's really nice of you. I'm sure they'll really appreciate it. 6 stacks of 4, 24 packets of salt laid neatly on the table, and I make sure Yiestol's given it an approving nod before tying my bundle back over my shoulder. Speaking of the eclipse, do you have any plans? Everyone's so excited about the eclipse. I shake my head. Not really. I might go out to watch it, I guess. Yiestol laughs gently. He has a raspy laugh in contrast to his lilting voice. You sound awfully unimpressed by the eclipse. I guess I'm just pretty satisfied with where I am right now. I know the eclipse is supposed to be good luck if you're making any big decisions, but I don't have any decisions to make. I shift the bundle on my shoulder and it comes out like a shrug. Maybe if I try taking a different route on my delivery that day, I'll find a shortcut. That would be nice. It would make your life a little easier, I suppose. Do you have any plans? There's a pod. Yiestol looks thoughtful, a finger tapping at his chin before his lips curve in a smile. I might. I'm still deciding. But you know, Vil. Yiestol reaches out to touch my shoulder. Despite the hard bones of his fingers, the gesture is soft and comforting, squeezing just briefly before giving a tender pat and then pulling away. The eclipse really is a special time, not just because of the eclipse itself, but because everyone is so excited and happy. I don't think it would be a bad idea to take advantage of that unique energy in the air. I give a small smile. Alright. I'll give it some thought. Yiestol sees me off. Is it alright for you to leave your pod for so long? It's alright for a few minutes. Taking short breaks helps keep my mind clear. Don't work yourself too hard. Even if everyone's depending on you, you shouldn't run yourself ragged. Thanks. You too. I grin. Don't worry. You helped me a lot by taking so much salt off my hands. My route's always easier after I visited you. Yiestol rasps out a laugh. Well, I'm glad I could be of help to you, though I should be the one thanking you for your work all the time. Alright, I'll see you later, Yiestol. Take care, Vil. Yiestol waves as I start off at a light jog. I wave back, the overlooked tower's docile without him in the cockpit. The tower antennae and mound of flesh just barely quivering. It's strange to see it so calm, which says a lot about how much I've grown used to Yiestol's constant presence, keeping an eye on the city. He's a good guy. I hope he gets a day off sometime. He could probably use it. It only takes a few paces to hit my stride, my posture lowering as I transition to my usual gallop. With that big delivery out of the way, the rest of the route is smaller deliveries, no problem. Here you go.
Thanks, quick as ever, aren't you?
Just trying to be on time. Have a nice day.
You too, Vil.
Most deliveries go quickly, just 1 or 2 salt packets I drop off along with a brief greeting. For people who aren't at home, I have to drop their salt into the usual delivery box out in the front of their door. It's nicer doing personal delivery since I like saying a brief hello to my clients, but it can't be helped. Everyone has things to do.
Thanks, Vil.
Honey salt, huh? Planning on doing something special for the eclipse?
Yup, thinking of throwing a bit of a party.
Glad I could get you your salt safely then.
I appreciate it. You be careful on your route now, you hear?
Will do. Everyone seems happy. It's nice. It's a nice day. My next delivery is a few blocks away, but I can cut through the park. The ground's a little wetter here, the dirt solid beneath my feet instead of kicking up into little puffs. My claws dig small grooves with each step, no doubt leaving a little line of tick marks to signal where I've been. They'll probably be trampled flat during the day only to repeat the next day. The paths in the park are flanked by trees, their gnarled branches reaching haphazardly up and outwards, as if they're also looking forward to the eclipse. Small insects lay nestled in the bark, their wings shimmering like water droplets each time they flit around. A few of them chitter at each other, set to the backdrop of crows shouting. Somewhere further away, there's the quiet drone of some sort of factory belching long streamers of smoke. All I can think about is, like, the reverse of stuff, so everybody's, like, insecty or, like, a little monstrous, and then you have the insects, and they're just, like, people. It's nice here. The atmosphere is great. I really like getting to cut through the park. I'm so distracted that I don't hear the sound of footsteps approaching. Rapidly.
Vil!
A boisterous pillar of fur and energy comes bursting out of the foliage directly to my right. I jump almost 2 feet in the air.
Hey, Vil!
Bratton stinks of sweat and dirt, his fur's matted darkened spots plastered out in strange directions from dried fluids, and there's a glob of something fleshy stuck to his jaw. Hey, Bratton, been out all night?
Yeah,
Just as I suspected.
we were exploring out westward since we smelled a lot of salt. Haven't found anything yet, though.
I'm sure you'll find it soon. You guys are really good at your jobs. You got that big ol' honker. Can smell all the smells. Bratton beams at me, tail wagging side to side and knocking around some innocent saplings' branches. Bratton works as a salt scout. Salt scouts search the flesh fields outside the city in search of raw salt pools. These pools are where we harvest the raw salt for processing at the plant, then distributing out to people. An important job, in other words. Salt scouts depend on their senses of smell or sensitivity to changes in the air to seek out the signature sting of salt. So apparently many of them don't mind working during the night when visibility is poor. It's not unusual to see a salt scout heading home in the morning, dirty from a long night of exploring.
Anyway,
Even after a night of what must have been exhausting work, Bratton talks at a boisterous growl.
I thought I smelled you with salt, so I figured I'd catch you now. If I pick up my salt from you here, it'll make your route a little easier, right?
Smile tugs at my face. Bratton looks terribly proud of his innovative thought. Say it helps a lot. Say it's a good thing you didn't miss each other. Say you wouldn't want Bratton to wear himself out. Say it's a good thing you didn't miss each other. Even if there are a few problems with the plan, it's the thought that counts. We might have missed each other, you know, if you came here, but I was headed down a different path. So I guess it's a good thing your nose is so sharp. You'll never miss me with that, huh? Bratton beams, obviously pleased by the compliment. His ears stand straight up. Well, let me check what your delivery for today is.
Just the usual for me.
He pipes up before I can double-check my notes, so I nod as I shift the bundle on my shoulder to pull out his usual delivery. 2 packs of regular salt. Bratton tends to eat a bit more than average, understandable with how much time he spends moving around.
By the way,
He sounds excited. I bet he's going to talk about the eclipse.
do you have any plans for the eclipse?
The swinging of his tail has grown ferocious, batting at a branch aside with enough gusto to snap it in half. Not really. Everyone seems so excited for the eclipse, which I suppose is a normal reaction. It's probably weirder that I'm more laid back about it, but that's just my nature. Besides, it makes me happy enough just seeing other people being so excited. Their feelings are infectious.
Aw, really? Come on, you should live a little.
That cough wasn't me needing water. That cough was in reaction to what just happened. Bratton's enormous paw claps on my back, making me stumble forward a step. 1 or 2 salt packets spill from my bundle, but he catches them before they hit the ground.
Whoops, sorry about that.
It's alright. I put those packets away and managed to extract 2 packets of regular salt in the process. Here you go, the usual for you.
Thanks, Vil.
For a moment, Bratton sounds like he's about to add something, but stops himself. I don't prod, just readjusting my bundle. Sure enough, he shifts his weight from one foot to the other for a few moments in a nervous fidget before speaking up again.
Hey, you know, you should really consider doing something for the eclipse.
Well, it's not that I'm against doing anything, but I guess I just don't have any plans.
So you'd be up for doing something adventurous?
Bratton blurts that out loudly enough to startle off a crow overhead, and I can't help being curious. Maybe?
Cool.
There's a pause before he hurries to add.
Not that I have anything planned or anything, I was just asking. But you never know what might come up, is what I'm saying.
I have to fight back a grin. Breton isn't good at being subtle. I guess you're right. Knowing Breton, maybe he'll teach me about some hidden location to view the eclipse from. He knows this area like the back of his hand, thanks to his job. The shortcut through the park is also something he taught me about, so I'd actually be pretty happy if he taught me about a new strange location to visit during the eclipse. It might be a nice change of pace.
Anyway, I'll let you get back to your job.
Breton's stifling a yawn as he says that. Even his endless energy might be running low after working all night. Sure, you should get some rest.
Will do.
There's no warning before Breton leans in to lick my face, his tongue dragging all the drool way up from my chin to my brow, and leaving a sticky trail of drool in its wake.
Did I say drool or tongue? Probably said drool.
A very moist sign of affection.
Do good on your job, I'll see you tomorrow.
And with that, Breton's on his way. I wave as Breton makes his loud exit, crashing his way through some defenseless bushes and leaving a trail of trampled ground in his wake. He waves back as he turns a corner around a prickly bush up ahead, then vanishes from view. It's only then that I raise a hand to my face, considering wiping away the damp tracks lingering on my face. I end up just leaving it be. It's not a big deal after all, and my face gets chapped from running against the wind all day. The sheen of spit soothes the raw skin a little bit. So after one last check of my bundle to make sure it's secure, I turn my attention back to the path through the park. Time to get back to work. Here you go.
Thanks, Will. You're always right on time. I really appreciate it. It's nicer to get my salt directly from you instead of my box, you know.
I understand. I'm glad I could get it to you, too.
You're such a good kid. You take care, all right?
Will do, sir. The route grows easier towards the end of the day as my bundle grows ever lighter. I have to stop to tie it tighter over my shoulder, making sure the excess fabric doesn't bellow and flap around too much as I run. The deliveries are going smoothly. Everyone seems to be in a pretty good mood, and one client gives me a cup of water to keep me going. Though I don't need the water, it's still a nice energy boost, and I thank her for it before continuing on my way. One block has 5 houses in a row that needs deliveries. One house is occupied, and I get to hand the salt to my client directly, but the other 4 are empty, so I leave the salt in their boxes. Maybe they're off at work, or maybe they're making preparations for the eclipse. Hopefully I can say hi to them tomorrow at least. That block done, I trot to the end of the street to the corner, but the sound of screaming catches my attention. Looking up, I catch sight of the small crowd a few blocks down. It takes a moment of squinting to realize what it is. A punishment salt bath.
Ah! I'm shriveling up like a snail! Ooh, it hurts!
There's a giant metal tub placed on the ground, flanked on either side by an overlook officer, and inside the tub, salt. A person. A criminal. Each overlook officer is holding a capture pole, the wires at the end strung taut around the criminal's limbs, keeping them firmly in the salt bath. Even from this distance, I can make out patches of raw, wet flesh, areas where the criminal's skin have been flayed off to expose them to the salt. No doubt the salt in the bath is starting to stain red and clump together from the blood and fluids. My mouth waters a little just from the thought. Yummy. These punishment salt baths serve a dual function. On the one hand, this is a pretty good punishment, though larger crimes earn harsher punishment. First-time offenders are usually only given a salt bath.
What? Really? That's first-time offender? I would have been like, I'll never commit a crime again, please! Oh, it hurts!
The pain of having raw flesh exposed to salt is usually enough to be of a deterrent to keep people from repeating their mistakes in the future. See? Unless you're a little weirdo and then you're just like, oh, it hurt! But then that's first-time offender, so you're not going to be able to do it again, right? On the other hand, the salt used in these punishments is a bit of a delicacy. Though not as prized as honey or mercury salt, punishment salt has a savory tang to it that almost everyone enjoys. Cannibalism. Just enough blood gets mixed into the salt to give it a unique flavor and take off some of the harsh edge of the original salt taste. I'll probably be seeing a bunch of punishment salt to be delivered tomorrow. Maybe I'll claim a package or 2 for myself. Everyone's talking about the eclipse after all. Maybe I can treat myself. Ooh, the taste of other people's flesh. Whoever's immersed in the salt gives a gurgling scream. Sunlight glints bright off the salt tub. I got work to do. I can't be watching this. It's too tantalizing. I can't watch any longer. As interesting as this is, I think it would be best to get back to work. Who knows how long it's gonna be, anyways. I turn my attention back to the streets ahead. The officers are grunting something at the criminal, but I ignore it. Even if the smell of blood and salt in the air is tantalizing, I take 1, 2, 3 quick steps and launch into a steady trot. I'm still on the job, so I shouldn't lose my focus. I manage to drag my thoughts away from the salt bath by the time I reach the end of the block. I'm at the trail end of my route, and with almost nothing left in my bundle, each step feels light. I drop 2 salt packages into a delivery box before rounding the corner. Immediately, there's a unique sweetness in the air. Without thinking, I raise my head to inhale deeply. Even if I'm deeply familiar with the smell, it's still enticing. One can't help but breathe in deeper inhales around this area, and there's always a few people loitering around. Up ahead is the bee store. Whoa! Big bee! A small bone chime above the door rattled as I enter. The cages before me buzz in response. The air inside the store is already dizzyingly sweet, but the heady scent intensifies for a moment, and I utterly lose my train of thought. Standing before the entrance, I just focus on taking in 1, 2, 3 deep breaths, each lungful making me feel more languid.
You're here, huh?
It's a gruff voice sounding from further inside the store that snaps me back to attention. Hey, Nyargh. Yeah, Nyargh. I have your salt. Nyargh stands between 2 tall rows of cages, making notes on a scrap of paper, probably taking notes on the condition of his bees. As I make my way down the aisle, the cages around me buzz happily. Bee! 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 Each cage contains a large fat bee. Some are shy and turn away as I walk by, but others are more personable and bumble up to the front of the cage to poke their antennae through the bars and wiggle them at me. One cage contains a particularly fluffy bee that waggles its abdomen at me as I approach. I've helped bathe this one before, so it's familiar with me. When I pause to poke my fingers through the bars of its cage, it toddles closer and ducks its head so I can rub the area behind its head, right where the bristly fur starts to sprout. I pet it a few times, rubbing my fingers in short strokes, and it hums happily in response, flicking its wings. Honey dribbles from its mandibles, leaving damp yellow spots on the padding in the cage. Hey there, you're not supposed to be wasting honey like that.
Don't blame my bee for that. You're the one who made her drool.
Nyargh must have finished taking his notes because he's made his way down the aisle towards me. The bulk of his body towers over me, leaning over to peer into the cage where the bee is rubbing at its mandibles with its frontmost legs.
The girls have had to work hard these days. You shouldn't agitate them.
Oh, right, sorry.
You're fine. Just don't excite them too much.
Got it. The bee continues to watch its face off, antennae flicking periodically. Because of the eclipse, huh?
Yeah.
Not surprising. Bees are highly prized for their honey. Everyone loves honey salt, after all. Nyargh's store sells both bees and honey. Bees are expensive, both to buy and to care for, so not many people can afford to buy one. But saving up to buy some honey for special occasions is much more doable. Maybe I can do that, actually, since I don't have any other plans for the eclipse. Hey, Nyargh?
Huh?
Do you have any plans for the eclipse?
No.
Also not surprising. Nyargh is a type who largely keeps to himself.
But I suppose the eclipse should be nice to watch.
Right? I'm thinking the same thing. Maybe just take a relaxing break watching it happen.
Sounds ideal.
Think I should buy some honey for the occasion?
I do have a few bottles left for today.
Say you're considering buying some. Ask to put a bottle on hold. Jokingly ask if you can work for a discount. Maybe a joke would lighten the mood a little. Is there any chance I can help you clean in the evening in exchange for a discount? Nyargh grins some of his teeth seemingly in thought, but before I can tell him not to worry about it, he mutters,
I guess I could figure something out for you.
I laugh gently. I'm kidding, I wouldn't do that to you. I don't have my wallet with me. I don't usually carry it around on my route, but I might take you up on that offer tomorrow. Nyargh only grunts in response, but some of his lips quirk a little. I think he's pleased.
I was just looking at the picture of him is so, like, disconcerting.
The bone chime on the door rattles as another customer enters, and I give Nyargh a quick wave. I better go, actually, but I'll see you tomorrow. Nyargh grunts again, already turning towards his new customers. I give the bees a little wave too. They buzz back at me, the sweet scent of honey in the air intensifying in that moment. I almost stumble as I turn towards the door, inhaling deeply one last time before stepping outside. Damn, it's like a drug. Ooh, that smell of honey. I could just sit here and do nothing for ages. My head clears immediately. The air just outside is still sweet, but it's nothing compared to the intensity inside the store. Outside, a few people peer into the window looking at the bees on display there. It smells so good here, doesn't it? Want to go inside?
Nah, I don't want to run into the owner guy.
Why? What's wrong with the odor? I was about to resume my route, but I paused, pretending to adjust the fabric tied over my shoulder. Not that that's even necessary. The strangers don't pay me any attention.
I heard he doesn't eat much salt.
So what?
But he eats something else other than salt.
What? I roll my eyes a little.
Nobody knows, but it's not normal to eat so little salt, you know. And my friend says he once went into the store and they saw him eating one of the bees.
Gross. I've heard all that I cared to hear, so I finish adjusting my pack and set off at a steady gallop. So I thought they were going to be like,
he eats other people just whole.
Wait. Wait a goddamn minute! Oh, I see where this is going. I've heard all that I care to hear. There are a few weird rumors about Nyargh floating around, and though I once interrupted some gossipy customers, Nyargh told me not to bother in the future, that he doesn't care what other people say. Still, it irks me that people bother making up these silly rumors about people just because they're different. And Nyargh is a good guy. When I get home, I'll look through my savings to make sure I have enough to buy a little bottle of honey. He seemed pleased by my promise to buy a bottle after all.
Thanks, Vil. I was worried you might be late since things seem so hectic today.
I'm glad I didn't keep you waiting.
You always work so hard, so I know I can count on you. But don't work yourself too hard, you hear? Make sure you give yourself some time on the eclipse.
I'll do that, don't you worry. I wave to the last of my customers for the day, sighing quietly as I turn the corner back onto the main street. The empty pack over my shoulders gets folded up into a little cloth bundle I can fit into my pocket. I'll drop this off tomorrow morning while picking up my salt, so my work for today is done. It's not too late when I get back home, but I feel tired nonetheless. Maybe it's the atmosphere. Though the walk back home has been eventful, the spark in the air had still been present. It had been like trying to wade through a shallow pool of water, the energy sloughing off one's skin in thin sheets with each little conversation with a passerby. Everyone had seemed genuinely excited, and I was happy for them truly, but now that I'm in my room, alone, I can't help wondering if it's really fine for me to have no plans at all for the eclipse. I open the window and lean out it as I chew on a block of salt, feeling each bite sting at my gums. Outside, the two moons glow past a gossamer curtain of clouds. They infuse the night sky with a gentle light, warding off the complete darkness, and I bask in the cold light as I reflect on the day's events. All of my customers had such different expectations for the eclipse. It sounded like it's all had something in mind. Same for Bratton. I guess Nyargh doesn't have any plans, but he has to work hard leading up to the eclipse. I finish my salt, dusting my hands off outside, and close the window as I retreat back into my room. Well, I guess it's kind of late to be making any big decisions anyway. And the belief that the eclipse will herald anything good is just superstition. It's a little early to be sleeping, but the day's been weirdly exhausting, and I can feel sleep rolling in like a blanket of fog, steadily clouding through my head. As I sink back into my bed and stare up at the ceiling, I idly consider tomorrow's route. I guess I'm gonna be pretty busy tomorrow too. Though I start going over today's route in my head, I can feel my thoughts rapidly clouding over. I'll just deal with things as they happen, I guess. I think I'm gonna stop here because it's getting hot right now, so I don't wanna put my computer through that. This is interesting. In a gross way, I'm gonna be honest. But it's unique, so I like it. I cannot look at Nyargh, though. I kept avoiding looking at him because I felt like, ugh, too many mouths. Also reminds me of, I think it's called Legion in Persona, or rather Shin Megami Tensei. I mean, either one. I'm pretty sure Legion is in there. But, like, thanks, Car. Minus the, face. It's just all mouths. Thinking about what may happen in the future, I feel like Nyargh and Bratton have the highest chances of Vor. I think Nyargh might be top contender though for that. All I know is Bratton and Nyargh are gonna they might. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what might happen otherwise with like Yiestol, or if Bratton doesn't have a thing for Vor. Yeah. I'm curious to like, has this place always been like this? But it doesn't seem like it because everything is made in a way that says human, but everyone has like different like body types and stuff. So you would think that like everything would look a little more different than it does. I'm curious why everything is so fleshy. Like, what's up with that? Why? I can understand everybody being like a monster or something, but why is everything so fleshy? And I can understand that one building being like a weird insect type thing, but why is everything so fleshy? We're not in that one game where the dude was seeing everything in flesh, but it wasn't. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more, like, lore about the world itself as we go along, because, like, right now we know about the eclipse, and so we know there's 3 suns, and I think at least 2 moons. And, like, that is, like, a very, what they said, auspicious day. But, like, I need to know more. Also, those bees, hell yeah, big bee. I just want to pet it. Honeybees are, like, the cutest bee. Otherwise, I don't care about anything else. I mean, I think male carpenter bees are kind of cute. I just kind of like the color that they are. Like the green eyes and the yellow, like the regular black and yellow look. Otherwise, I don't really know anything else about bees, and I don't care. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully I can get this out specifically for October. But otherwise, it's fine if it's not October. 'Cause every month is Halloween, if you believe hard enough. I hope you guys have a good day and a good night, and I'll see you in the next one, or whatever else you would like to watch. Or not. If you just leave, I understand. Especially if this was your first time looking at anything, I understand. Bye!